Have you ever paused in the quiet of the morning and felt the hum of possibility around you, as if the universe itself were leaning in to whisper a secret that has always been yours? It is here, in these silent, sacred moments, that you come face to face with the truth of who you are, a being of infinite potential, a vessel of divine intelligence, an essence that is already enough. And yet, so many of us live as though the impossible is an impenetrable wall, as though the dreams that stir our hearts are fantasies too distant to ever touch. But the universe does not operate in the confines of what we see. It moves in the language of vibration, intention, and faith. And here is the first truth. What you hold in your mind and in your heart every single day shapes the very fabric of your reality. When you make positivity your routine, when you choose to greet each day with expectation instead of doubt, something remarkable begins to unfold. The impossible, once distant and abstract, starts to lean toward you, drawn by the consistency of your belief. This is not magic in the childish sense, but a law as ancient as the stars, that energy follows attention, that what you radiate, you will experience. The thoughts you nurture, the beliefs you cultivate, they are the architects of the life you inhabit. Every worry that lingers, every fear that you entertain builds walls around your soul. But every act of gratitude, every smile given freely, every thought of hope chisels open a path to the extraordinary. Consider for a moment the river. A river does not force its way through the mountains. It flows, persistently, patiently, around rocks and obstacles, wearing them down not through struggle but through consistency. And yet, the river reaches the ocean, seemingly impossible, yet inevitable, because it follows the path of least resistance with unwavering motion. Your mind is the river, your faith is the current. The impossible is simply the ocean waiting to meet you. When you align your daily habits, your routine, with positivity, you become the river that cannot be stopped. You become the presence that the universe cannot ignore. And here is the second truth. The unseen is always working in your favor. You do not have to understand how. You do not have to chart every detail. The seeds you plant in thought, intention, and belief will germinate in ways far beyond the comprehension of your ego. There is a divine intelligence in the cosmos, a consciousness that orchestrates reality with precision and care. You are a co-creator in this dance, and yet you need not wrestle with control. Trusting the unseen is not passive, it is active faith, a daily ritual of surrender coupled with purpose. When you act from alignment rather than fear, doors open that you never even knew existed. Opportunities appear as if summoned, not by your struggle, but by the resonance you maintain within. Imagine the gardener tending to a fragile seedling. She does not yank it from the soil to see if it is growing, nor does she curse the sun for not moving faster. She waters it, nurtures it, gives it light, and trusts the process. So too must you treat your dreams, your desires, the impossible things stirring in your soul. Nurture them daily. Speak to them kindly. Let belief be the water, gratitude the sunlight, and persistence the soil that allows them to grow. The universe does not hurry, yet it accomplishes all things perfectly. And when your daily routine mirrors this divine patience, miracles emerge with astonishing regularity. You see, faith is a muscle. It grows stronger each time you choose to look beyond the circumstances, to see not with the eyes of limitation, but with the vision of possibility. Each morning, when you decide to speak words of encouragement to yourself instead of doubt, when you consciously release fear and embrace trust, you are strengthening this muscle. And as it grows, you discover that the impossible begins to bend, shift, and eventually align with the rhythm of your inner world. This is why your daily routine matters, because consistency and positivity is not a small thing. It is the lever that moves the entire universe. Do not underestimate the power of a single thought held long enough, a single intention repeated daily, a single act of courage performed with love. History is filled with examples of what appeared impossible to the human eye. Great works of art, scientific breakthroughs, social transformations, all born from the belief of one soul who refused to accept limitation. And if it was possible for them, why not for you? The difference is rarely circumstance. It is the unwavering commitment to the belief that what you desire is not a distant fantasy, but a living reality waiting for your acknowledgement. And here is the third truth. Your inner world precedes your outer world. What is unseen shapes what is seen. Thoughts are not ethereal whispers, they are forces, carrying the weight of intention, sculpting reality with subtle, precise strokes. Every thought you entertain sends out ripples that touch not only your life, but the lives of those around you. When your mind is clear, your heart is open, and your routine is aligned with hope, abundance, and purpose, you radiate a frequency that calls forth the impossible. It is not about effort alone, not about grinding until the universe relents. It is about alignment, vibration, and the steady, consistent choice to live as though what you desire is already on its way. Consider the sun rising each morning. It does not labor or struggle to illuminate the earth. It simply rises consistently without fail. And with its presence, life flourishes. So too is your daily practice of positivity and belief. You do not have to fight for every result. You simply show up faithfully, radiating faith, clarity, and love. The impossible cannot resist a presence so consistent, so aligned, so determined by the quiet power of belief. Let us speak now of action. Faith without action is like a song without melody, a flame without light. Yet action taken from alignment, from inspiration, from the still knowing within, is unlike any effort born of desperation. You will know the steps to take, not because you force them into being, but because your inner wisdom, your higher self, guides you. When you live in this state, every choice, every word, every movement becomes a manifestation of the divine rhythm coursing through you. The impossible begins to move because you have become a vessel that resonates with possibility, a conduit through which the universe flows effortlessly. And so the final truth unfolds. Make this your routine. Not just when hope is convenient, not only when circumstances are favorable, but every day, in every thought, in every breath. Let your mornings be rituals of gratitude, your actions steeped in faith, your evenings filled with reflection and appreciation for the unseen working on your behalf. Consistency is the bridge between desire and fulfillment, between the impossible and the inevitable. When you integrate positivity and belief into the pattern of your life, you create an environment in which miracles are not exceptional but natural, in which impossibility is not a wall but a doorway waiting to be opened. Remember always, the universe is not punishing you, it is responding to you. Your vibration is a beacon, and what you hold inside is what comes to meet you. Even the impossible begins to manifest when you choose to align your daily routine with hope, love, and unwavering faith. Let this be your practice, let this be your commitment, and watch as the impossible bends toward you, as your reality transforms, and as the life you once only imagined begins to unfold with grace, ease, and perfect timing. Trust the unseen, act with purpose, love without restraint, and live with the deep knowing that you are already enough, that you are already complete, and that even the impossible is moving in your direction because you have chosen to be a consistent presence of belief. The river flows, the sun rises, the seed grows, and you, magnificent being, are part of this extraordinary dance. The impossible has always been closer than you knew. All it required was for you to make positivity and belief your routine. And now, in this moment, let the knowing settle within you. Feel it in your bones, in the quiet spaces of your heart, in the calm rhythm of your breath. The impossible is here. It is waiting. And because you have chosen faith as your daily companion, it moves toward you with gentle inevitability. You are aligned. You are whole. You are enough. And the impossible, ever so quietly, is becoming your reality. And now, let us consider the quiet power of presence, the simple yet profound act of being awake in each moment. It is here, in the silence between your thoughts, in the spaces where the mind has not yet rushed to judge or measure, that you discover the true nature of your power. You are not the failures you have endured, nor the mistakes you once believed defined you. You are not the fears that whisper in the night, nor the doubts that cloud your clarity. You are the observer, the witness, the stillness behind the mind, and in that space, impossibility begins to dissolve. To exist fully in this presence is to invite miracles, for the universe responds to consciousness, to clarity, to alignment. Each breath becomes a declaration of trust, each heartbeat a pulse of divine collaboration. Do not mistake patience for passivity, nor surrender for weakness. True surrender is the most potent force in existence because it is the recognition that life itself is a living intelligence, that the universe is constantly working to orchestrate your highest good, and that your task is not to resist, but to align. When you act from this place of inner authority, Your every step is guided by wisdom that transcends logic. Your every word infused with resonance that shifts circumstances. Your every intention a beacon calling forth what once seemed impossible. This is why routine matters. Not because repetition is mundane, but because consistency in presence, in faith, and in alignment transforms your inner field, and the outer world cannot help but respond. Consider the stars. They do not compete for attention. They do not demand recognition. They simply shine steadily in their ordained positions, illuminating the night for all who are willing to look. And though each star seems small in isolation, collectively they create constellations, patterns of beauty and guidance that have inspired countless generations. So too is your daily practice of belief and positivity. A small, steady light that, when maintained, forms constellations of opportunity, guidance, and manifestation around you. What once felt impossible is revealed in time as a pattern already existing in the cosmos, waiting only for your recognition and alignment to appear. Let us speak of action inspired by faith. There is a difference between pushing against life and moving with life. The ego struggles and strains, trying to force outcomes, trying to control the uncontrollable. But when your routine is built on alignment with possibility, action becomes effortless, intuitive, and profoundly effective. You do what needs to be done, not from compulsion, but from clarity. You act not from scarcity, but from abundance. You move not from fear, but from love. And it is in these moments, these inspired actions, that the impossible begins to bend toward reality. The universe is not a passive observer. It conspires with you when you operate from your authentic self, when your routine reflects the vibration you wish to inhabit. Every challenge you face, every obstacle that appears insurmountable, is a reflection of opportunity. The impossible is rarely about circumstance. It is about perception. The walls that seem to contain you are often mirrors of your own doubts, and the key to unlocking them is consistency and faith. When you make positivity a habit, when you consciously choose hope over despair, gratitude over complaint, trust over worry, you are doing more than changing your attitude. You are changing the very quantum field in which your life unfolds. What once appeared distant or unreachable begins to move toward you with remarkable ease. This is the law of manifestation in its most elegant form. The energy you maintain daily shapes the outcomes you experience. And so, even in moments when it feels like the universe is silent, even when your desires seem far from fulfillment, do not waver. Silence is not absence, it is gestation. The unseen is preparing the conditions, aligning circumstances, and orchestrating connections that your mind cannot yet comprehend. Your role is not to hurry the process, but to maintain your inner vibration, to continue the daily practice of trust, gratitude, and presence. The seed may not yet sprout above the soil, but beneath the surface, life is stirring, preparing to emerge. Imagine a violinist practicing scales for hours, day after day. The music is not perfect at first, yet the diligence, the daily repetition, cultivates mastery. Similarly, your daily alignment with faith and positivity is the practice that tunes the strings of your life. The impossible is not distant. It is merely awaiting the resonance that only your consistent vibration can provide. Each thought, each word, each act of belief is a note contributing to the symphony of manifestation. And when the moment arrives, when the seed emerges, when the river reaches the ocean, it is not by chance, it is the inevitable result of your persistent alignment with the unseen. Remember always, you are more than your circumstances, more than the obstacles in your path, more than the limitations the mind imagines. You are a being of infinite intelligence, of boundless creativity, and of limitless capacity. The universe is not indifferent to you. It responds with precision to the energy you maintain. The impossible bends, shifts, and moves because you have chosen to make belief and positivity your routine, because you have decided to embody the truth that what you hold inside is what comes to meet you. Every moment of conscious attention, every act of inspired faith, every heartbeat in alignment with your higher self is a step toward the impossible becoming reality. So, let your mornings begin with clarity, let your days unfold with intention, let your evenings close in gratitude. And in this daily rhythm, you will discover the secret that has always been present. The impossible is not only possible, it is inevitable when you live in alignment with your truth. Trust the unseen. Act with inspired purpose, and make your routine a sacred ritual of positivity and faith. For it is not in extraordinary acts, but in consistent alignment that miracles are born. You are the river flowing toward the ocean. You are the seed rising through the soil. You are the sun that rises without fail. You are the presence that moves mountains, that calls forth the unseen, that manifests the impossible. And now, in this very moment, as you breathe and align in trust, you are participating in the grand orchestration of life itself. Even the impossible begins to manifest because you have made belief your routine, because you have chosen to see, to trust, and to act in harmony with the infinite intelligence that is always moving on your behalf. And now, imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of possibility itself. The wind of potential brushes against your skin, the light of unseen reality shimmers just beyond your vision, and you feel the heartbeat of creation pulsing in harmony with your own. It is here that you realize you are not waiting for the world to give you permission to live fully. You are not dependent on circumstance, on timing, on other people's recognition. The universe has been conspiring for you from the moment of your birth, and everything you have experienced, every joy, every heartbreak, every challenge, has been preparing you to step into this truth. You are already enough. You have always been enough. And when you accept this, truly, deeply, with every fiber of your being, even the impossible begins to bow to your presence. Consider the way a sculptor approaches a block of marble. At first, it appears impossible, solid, immovable. But with patience, vision, and deliberate action, the sculptor sees the figure within, and slowly, day by day, chip by chip, the masterpiece emerges. So too is your life. What seems impossible today, that goal, that dream, that vision, is already embedded within you. It waits only for your recognition, your routine of faith, your consistent alignment with positivity and belief to take shape in the external world. The universe is like that sculptor, responding to the intention and care you bring to your inner life. Your daily practice, your consistent vibration, is the chisel shaping reality itself. And here is a subtle but profound truth. Resistance is the only thing that delays manifestation. Doubt, worry, comparison, fear, these are like shadows cast over a bright day, illusions that obscure the light that has always been yours. Every time you choose to release these, even for a moment, you allow the light of your inherent power to shine through. And when you make positivity, gratitude, and belief your routine, these shadows lose their hold, for you no longer feed them. You begin to notice doors opening where walls once stood, opportunities arriving where there was once emptiness, and guidance flowing as if the universe itself is guiding you by the hand. It is not coincidence, it is the natural consequence of alignment. Imagine now the rhythm of a drum, steady, unbroken. Each beat echoes in the air, resonating with the space around it. This is how your daily routine of faith and belief works. Each positive thought, each act of gratitude, each moment of trust is a beat in the rhythm of your life. The universe responds to rhythm, to consistency, to the vibration that you hold day after day. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, the impossible begins to move toward you. Your dreams, once distant, begin to feel tangible. Your path, once hidden, begins to unfold. And in this rhythm, you discover the profound beauty of co-creation, that you are not alone in bringing forth what you desire. The unseen intelligence that permeates all things is working with you, for you, and through you in perfect harmony. Now, consider your challenges. Every obstacle, every difficulty, every seeming failure has a hidden gift. Even the impossible carries a lesson, a nudge, a refinement. The universe does not test you to punish you. It invites you to grow, to expand, to align more fully with your highest self. When you face what seems impossible, do not shrink. Instead, let it remind you that you are being called to a higher level of faith, a deeper level of patience, and a more consistent practice of positivity. The river does not stop when it encounters a rock. It flows around it, carving a new path, learning its own resilience. And so can you when you make faith your daily practice. Picture the stars at night. They do not struggle, they do not compete, yet the night sky is ablaze with their brilliance. Their light travels for thousands of years before reaching your eyes, yet it arrives unerringly, perfectly, fulfilling its purpose. so too is your daily practice. What you do today, in thought, in word, in intention, may take time to manifest externally, but every act of faith, every routine of positivity, every moment of alignment is traveling through the unseen, preparing the conditions for the impossible to appear. Patience is not idle waiting. It is the conscious act of sustaining faith when nothing yet seems visible. And when you practice this patience daily, the impossible cannot resist. Now, breathe with me in this knowing. Every inhale draws in possibility. Every exhale releases doubt. Every heartbeat is a drumbeat in the rhythm of manifestation. You are connected to an intelligence far greater than your mind can comprehend, yet intimately aligned with your choices, your vibration, and your belief. The universe does not differentiate between small dreams and great ones. It responds to the clarity and consistency of the signal you emit. And when you live your life as a routine of faith, hope, and positivity, that signal becomes impossible to ignore. And let us speak of joy, for joy is the magnet of miracles. When you cultivate joy as a daily practice, when laughter, gratitude, and love flow freely through your days, the impossible becomes inevitable. Joy is not dependent on circumstance. It is a state of being, a vibration that cannot help but draw toward itself everything that resonates at the same frequency. When you live from joy, your actions are effortless, your decisions align, and your reality begins to conform to the vision your soul has always held. This is why routine matters, not for the sake of discipline alone, but because through routine, you sustain the vibration that invites miracles. Do not underestimate the quiet power of your own presence. You do not need to force reality to bend. You do not need to battle life with resistance. Simply live each day in alignment with your inner knowing, in harmony with positivity, in rhythm with faith, and the impossible begins to flow toward you. Your routine becomes a sacred ritual, a prayer of vibration, a declaration that you trust the unseen, that you are willing to participate consciously in the dance of life, and that you are ready to receive what has always been your rightful inheritance. The impossible has been waiting for you, not as a challenge, but as an invitation. It is drawn to those who are consistent, who hold their vibration steady, who align their thoughts, words, and actions with the highest truth of who they are. And now, as you stand fully in this knowing, as you breathe with the rhythm of the universe, as you make your daily routine a practice of faith and positivity, watch as what once seemed unreachable begins to move toward you with gentle inevitability. You are not the struggle. You are not the doubt. You are not the fear. You are the river that flows, the sun that rises, the seed that grows, the presence that shines. And even the impossible bows to the consistency, the alignment, and the faith that you cultivate every single day. There comes a moment on the inner path when you begin to notice how much of your life has been spent explaining, justifying, correcting, defending your intentions, defending your choices, defending your past, defending your worth. And if you are honest with yourself, you may realize that this habit has been so deeply woven into your identity that you no longer question it. You simply react. Someone doubts you, and your chest tightens. Someone misunderstands you, and your mind races. Someone judges you, and suddenly you feel compelled to prove something not to them, but to the invisible jury you have been carrying inside your own consciousness. And yet, the soul has never asked you to defend yourself. The soul does not argue. The soul does not explain. The soul simply is. To stop defending yourself is not an act of weakness. It is one of the most powerful spiritual decisions you can make. Because the need to defend always arises from the same illusion. The belief that who you are can be diminished by someone else's perception. The ego lives inside that illusion. It survives by comparison, by approval, by validation. It believes that worth must be negotiated, earned, protected, or explained. The soul knows something very different. The soul knows that worth is intrinsic, not conditional. It is not given, and it cannot be taken away. When you stop defending yourself, you are not giving up your power. You are reclaiming it from a world that never had the authority to define you in the first place. Think about how often arguments arise, not because truth is at stake, but because identity feels threatened. Someone challenges your view, and suddenly it feels like they are challenging you. Someone disagrees with your choice, and it feels like an attack on your intelligence, your morality, your value. But the awakened mind begins to see that disagreement is not danger. Judgment is not a verdict. Misunderstanding is not a condemnation. These are merely experiences passing through awareness. When you no longer fuse your sense of self with opinions, roles, or outcomes, you become free to observe without reacting, to listen without collapsing, to remain centered even when the world is noisy. There is a quiet dignity that emerges when you stop defending yourself. It is not arrogance. It is not indifference. It is an inner steadiness that says, I do not need to convince you of who I am because I am no longer trying to convince myself. That steadiness is the signature of higher consciousness. It comes from knowing that your essence was complete before anyone formed an opinion about you, and it will remain complete long after those opinions have dissolved into silence. When you no longer argue with reality, reality begins to cooperate with you in ways that feel almost miraculous. The universe does not respond to explanations, it responds to alignment. You can spend your life defending your actions, or you can spend it embodying your truth. One is exhausting, the other is effortless. When you live from alignment, your presence speaks louder than any justification ever could. You do not need to announce who you are. You demonstrate it through the energy you carry, the compassion you extend, the peace you refuse to surrender. This is why the wisest people often say the least. They have learned that silence, when it comes from awareness, is not emptiness, it is authority. Defensiveness is rooted in fear, fear of being wrong, fear of being rejected, fear of being unseen or unworthy. But fear dissolves in the presence of awareness. The moment you notice yourself preparing to defend, pause, breathe. Ask yourself gently, what am I afraid will happen if I don't? You may discover that what you are protecting is not your truth, but an image, not your soul, but a story. And stories, no matter how convincing, are not who you are. They are costumes consciousness wears for a while, then sets aside. To stop defending yourself is to trust that life is intelligent. It is to trust that you do not need to control how you are perceived in order to fulfill your purpose. The river does not defend its direction, it flows. The sun does not defend its brightness, it shines. The tree does not defend its growth, it grows. And you were not designed to spend your life explaining your existence. You were designed to express it. When you align with that truth, you move out of resistance and into grace. This does not mean you never speak. It means you speak from clarity, not compulsion. It means your words arise from intention, not insecurity. There is a vast difference between responding and reacting. Reaction is automatic, ego-driven, and fueled by the need to protect an identity. Response is conscious, spacious, and guided by awareness. When you stop defending yourself, you gain access to that space. You begin to choose peace over proving, understanding over winning, presence over performance. Notice how often the ego wants the last word. It believes that closure comes from being right, but the soul knows that closure comes from letting go. There are no justified resentments in higher consciousness, because resentment requires a story of injury, and higher consciousness sees only lessons, growth, and unfolding intelligence. When you release the need to defend, you also release the need to blame. And in that release, forgiveness becomes natural, not as a moral obligation, but as a logical consequence of understanding that nothing real has ever been threatened. The practice of not defending yourself is a form of meditation in daily life. Each interaction becomes an invitation to remain present. Each criticism becomes an opportunity to observe without attaching. Each misunderstanding becomes a reminder that your worth does not fluctuate with circumstances. This is how inner freedom is cultivated, not in isolation, but in relationship. Not by avoiding the world, but by meeting it without armor. There is a profound relief that comes when you realize you no longer have to manage your image. You no longer have to curate how you are seen. You no longer have to correct every misconception. The mind relaxes. The body softens. Energy that was once spent on self-protection becomes available for creativity, love, service, and joy. This is not a small shift. It is a radical reorientation of consciousness from self-consciousness to soul consciousness. When you live this way, something extraordinary happens. People may still judge you, but their judgments no longer hook you. They may still misunderstand you, but their misunderstandings no longer define you. And paradoxically, the less you defend yourself, the more trustworthy you appear. The less you explain, the more grounded you feel. The less you argue, the more powerful your presence becomes. This is because power does not come from persuasion. It comes from coherence, from living in harmony with who you truly are. The higher state of consciousness you step into when you stop defending yourself is not aloof or detached. It is deeply compassionate. You begin to see that others defend themselves for the same reason you once did: fear, conditioning, pain, confusion. And instead of meeting defensiveness with defensiveness, you meet it with understanding. You no longer need to win because you are no longer playing the game of validation. You are playing the game of awakening. Remember this: you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be aligned with truth. You are not here to convince the world of your value. You are here to remember it. And when you remember, you naturally radiate a quiet confidence that does not need applause. You trust the universe not because everything goes your way, but because you know that whatever comes your way cannot diminish what you are. So the next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, see it as a gentle signal, not a command, but a reminder to return to awareness, a reminder to breathe, a reminder to choose presence over performance. Let the moment pass without resistance. Let the silence speak. Let your life, not your explanations, be the evidence of who you are. This is the freedom Wayne Dyer spoke of, the freedom that comes when you stop asking the world for permission to be yourself. When you stop defending, you stop fighting shadows. You step into alignment with a higher intelligence that has always been guiding you. And in that alignment, you discover a truth so simple and so profound that it requires no defense at all. You are already enough. You have always been enough. And nothing outside of you has ever held the authority to say otherwise. And as you remain in this space of non-defense, something subtle yet extraordinary begins to occur within you. You start to feel the difference between reacting from memory and responding from presence. Memory is heavy. It carries the weight of every past wound, every conditioned belief about how you should be seen, every learned reflex that once promised safety but now only tightens the knot inside your chest. Presence, on the other hand, is light. It has no history to protect and no future to secure. It simply allows life to move through you without obstruction. In this allowing, you discover that peace is not something you create, it is something you stop interfering with. The mind may protest at first. It may whisper that silence is surrender, that not explaining is agreement, that not correcting is failure. But these whispers are echoes of an old training, a world that taught you to equate worth with noise and strength with resistance. The deeper intelligence within you knows otherwise. It knows that true strength is spacious, not rigid. It knows that confidence does not announce itself, it radiates. When you no longer rush to clarify, justify, or persuade, you give yourself the gift of inner stillness. And from that stillness, clarity emerges on its own, unforced and precise. In this state, you begin to recognize how often defending yourself has been a way of defending the past. Old decisions, old identities, old versions of yourself that were necessary at the time but no longer reflect who you are becoming. When you stop defending, you allow yourself to evolve without apology. You stop dragging yesterday into today. You let each moment stand on its own, fresh and unburdened. This is living in the now, not as a concept, but as a felt experience where the heart is no longer braced for impact. There is also a deep humility that unfolds here, a humility that is not self-diminishing but self-liberating. You realize that you do not need to be right to be whole. You do not need to be admired to be at peace. You do not need to be agreed with to be aligned. Humility, in its highest form, is the willingness to let life be larger than your personal narrative. It is the quiet acceptance that every person you encounter is seeing the world through a lens shaped by their own history, fears, and hopes, and that none of those lenses have the power to alter your essence. As this understanding deepens, forgiveness ceases to be an effort and becomes a natural movement of consciousness. You forgive not because others deserve it, but because you no longer wish to carry what does not belong to you. You see that holding on to the need to defend keeps you tethered to the very energies you long to be free from. Releasing that need is an act of self-respect. It is saying gently and firmly, I choose peace over proving. And in that choice, the body relaxes, the breath deepens, and the nervous system finally receives the message that it is safe to rest. From here, life begins to meet you differently. Conversations soften, conflicts lose their charge. Even when disagreement arises, it no longer feels personal. It feels informational. You listen more deeply because you are no longer listening for threats. You speak more clearly because your words are no longer filtered through fear. And when silence comes, it feels rich rather than awkward, full rather than empty. Silence becomes a companion, a reminder that truth does not require volume. You may notice that the universe mirrors this inner shift in unexpected ways. Opportunities appear without struggle. Support arrives without solicitation. Guidance becomes more intuitive, less analytical. This is not coincidence, it is resonance. When you stop broadcasting defensiveness, you stop attracting situations that require it. You begin to live in harmony with a higher order one that does not test you through opposition, but teaches you through alignment. At this level of awareness, you understand that your life is not a courtroom where you must continually present evidence of your goodness, intelligence, or worth. It is a classroom, a sanctuary, a field of experience designed to awaken you to who you are beyond roles and labels. And the lesson is always the same, though it arrives in countless forms. Nothing real needs to be defended. Truth stands on its own. Love explains itself. Being requires no justification. So you walk forward now with a lighter step, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You trust the intelligence that breathes you, guides you, and unfolds your path with quiet precision. You let go of the impulse to manage how you are received, and in doing so, you finally receive yourself. This is the higher state of consciousness you step into, not elevated above others, but rooted more deeply in what is timeless, compassionate, and free. And in this freedom, you discover the simplest, most transformative realization of all. When you no longer defend yourself, you are no longer at war with life. You are in dialogue with it. You listen, you respond, you grow. You live not as an argument to be proven, but as a presence to be felt. And that presence, calm, awake, and quietly powerful, becomes your greatest contribution to the world. And as this presence stabilizes within you, you begin to sense a deeper reorientation taking place. Not dramatic, not announced, but unmistakable. It is as though the center of gravity within your being has shifted from the outer world to the inner landscape, where once you scanned faces for approval, tones for validation, outcomes for reassurance, you now rest in a quieter knowing. You are no longer negotiating your existence moment by moment. You are inhabiting it. This is the subtle liberation that comes when identity loosens its grip and awareness takes the lead. You may notice how time itself feels different here. Urgency fades. The need to rush toward resolution dissolves. When you stop defending yourself, you step out of the illusion that something essential is always at risk. You begin to understand that life is not an exam you can fail, nor a performance you must perfect. It is a process of remembering again and again that you are participating in something far more intelligent than the thinking mind. This remembrance softens the edges of experience. Even uncertainty becomes less threatening when you trust that you are held by a larger order. In this space, you also start to recognize how much energy has been reclaimed. Energy that was once bound up in rehearsing conversations, anticipating criticism, replaying misunderstandings. That energy returns to you now as vitality, creativity, and quiet joy. You feel more available not just to others, but to yourself. You listen inwardly with the same compassion you once reserved for defending outwardly. And in that listening, you hear guidance that does not shout, does not argue, does not insist. It simply invites. The ego may still appear from time to time, as it always does. Old reflexes may surface. The impulse to explain may rise. But now there is space around it. You do not shame it or suppress it. You observe it with kindness, understanding that it once served a purpose, and because you no longer identify with it, it loses its authority. Awareness watches. Choice returns. This is not perfection. This is mastery, gentle, patient, and profoundly human. As you continue living from this place, relationships transform, some deepen, some dissolve. Some rearrange themselves in ways that feel both surprising and inevitable. You no longer cling to being understood. You value resonance over agreement. You discover that true connection does not come from convincing another of your truth, but from meeting them as they are, without armor, without agenda. And when connection is not possible, you release it without bitterness, trusting that alignment is always kinder than attachment. There is also a growing intimacy with life itself. Ordinary moments become luminous. A breath, a pause, a simple exchange carries a quiet richness that once went unnoticed. This is because you are no longer split, part of you present, part of you defending. You are whole in the moment. And wholeness has a way of revealing beauty where the fragmented mind once saw only problems to solve. Gradually, you realize that the practice of not defending yourself has become a way of being. It is no longer something you remember to do. It is something you naturally embody. You move through the world with an ease that does not depend on circumstances. Challenges still arise, but they do not destabilize you. Praise may come, but it does not inflate you. Criticism may appear, but it does not define you. You remain centered, not because you are unaffected, but because you are anchored in something deeper than reaction. And from this anchoring, trust blossoms not blind optimism, but a steady confidence in the unfolding intelligence of life. You trust that what needs to be said will be said. What needs to be clarified will clarify itself. What needs to fall away will do so without force. You trust that your path does not require constant defense because it is guided by a wisdom that does not make mistakes, even when it uses experiences you once labeled as wrong. So you continue gently and deliberately, choosing awareness over argument, presence over protection, truth over tension. You let your life speak in the language of alignment. And as you do, you discover that the quiet confidence you now carry is not something you created, it is something you allowed. It was always there, waiting beneath the noise, waiting for you to stop defending, stop proving, stop bracing, and simply be. And with this balance restored, you begin to sense that life is no longer pushing against you, nor are you pushing against it. There is a rhythm now, subtle, intelligent, trustworthy. You move with it rather than against it. Decisions arise with less struggle. You no longer need to force certainty before taking a step, because you have learned that clarity often follows movement, not the other way around. When you are not defending yourself, you are not frozen in self-doubt. You are responsive, fluid, alive. There is a new relationship with uncertainty that develops here. What once felt like danger now feels like openness. You understand that uncertainty is not the absence of guidance, but the presence of possibility. The mind prefers fixed answers because it seeks control, but the soul thrives in openness because it trusts direction. When you stop defending, you stop clinging to rigid positions. You allow yourself to be taught by experience rather than threatened by it. Life becomes a dialogue instead of a debate. This balance also reveals itself in how you relate to success and failure. Neither one defines you anymore. Achievement no longer inflates your sense of self, and setbacks no longer diminish it. You see both as movements within a larger unfolding waves on the surface of something much deeper and more stable. This stability does not come from certainty about outcomes. It comes from certainty about being. You know who you are, beyond roles, beyond results, beyond recognition, and that knowing cannot be shaken. As this understanding matures, compassion expands naturally. You see how many people are still exhausting themselves, trying to be seen, trying to be right, trying to be safe through defense. You recognize the tension in their words, the urgency in their reactions, the fear beneath their arguments, and instead of meeting that fear with resistance, you meet it with presence. You listen without needing to fix. You speak without needing to dominate. Sometimes you say nothing at all, allowing your calm to do the work that words cannot. There is a quiet courage required to live this way. It takes courage to remain open in a world that rewards defensiveness. It takes courage to be still when others are reactive, to be grounded when others are restless, to be silent when others demand explanation. But this courage is not effortful. It does not come from willpower. It comes from alignment, from standing in a truth that does not need reinforcement. Once you taste this kind of courage, you recognize it as strength without aggression, confidence without comparison. Gradually, the need to manage how you are perceived fades into the background of your awareness. You are no longer preoccupied with the story others are telling about you. You are engaged with the life you are actually living. Attention returns to the present moment, where power has always resided. You realize that defending yourself was never about protection, it was about distraction. And now that the distraction has fallen away, what remains is a direct, intimate connection with life itself. This is where balance reveals its deeper meaning. Not neutrality, not detachment, but integration. Mind and heart working together, action informed by awareness, stillness alive with movement. You do not retreat from the world, nor do you lose yourself in it. You participate fully without losing your center. You care deeply without clinging. You engage honestly without armoring. This is the equilibrium of awakened living. And in this equilibrium, something settles permanently within you. A quiet trust. Not that everything will go as planned, but that whatever unfolds will contribute to your awakening. You trust that you do not need to defend your path because it is uniquely yours. You trust that life knows what it is doing, even when the mind does not. You trust yourself, not the constructed self that seeks approval, but the deeper self that observes, learns, and grows through every experience. So you continue forward, not striving, not proving, not resisting. You move with a steady openness, allowing life to reveal itself step by step. You are no longer defined by reaction, nor driven by fear. You are guided by awareness, grounded in being, and balanced between heaven and earth, fully human, deeply conscious, and quietly free. And now, as this understanding settles into the deepest chambers of your being, you may notice a stillness that feels unfamiliar yet profoundly intimate. It is the stillness that comes when nothing inside you is arguing with the moment. You are not rehearsing explanations. You are not anticipating defense. You are not bracing for impact. You are simply here. And in this here-ness, you realize that peace was never something missing from your life. It was something waiting for you to stop interrupting it. You begin to sense that life has always been inviting you into this simplicity. Not a simplicity of circumstances, but a simplicity of relationship with yourself. When you no longer stand guard over an identity, you discover that awareness itself is enough. It holds joy without grasping, sorrow without drowning, love without fear. You no longer need to armor your heart because you are no longer mistaking vulnerability for danger. Openness becomes natural when you trust the intelligence that lives beneath every breath. There is a gentleness now in how you move through the world. You listen with your whole being. You speak with care, not calculation. You allow others their opinions without absorbing them as truth. You have learned that you do not need to resist what is false when you are anchored in what is real. Truth does not compete. It does not shout. It does not defend itself. It simply remains steady, luminous, undeniable. And in this remaining, you touch something timeless within yourself, a presence that existed before you learned to explain yourself, before you learned to perform, before you learned to protect. This presence has watched every chapter of your life unfold with infinite patience. It has never doubted your worth. It has never questioned your belonging. It has always known that you were enough, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. From this place, gratitude arises effortlessly. Not gratitude for perfection, but gratitude for participation, for being alive in a universe that is constantly offering you opportunities to remember who you are. Even the moments that once felt adversarial now reveal their hidden gift. They taught you the cost of self-defense and the freedom of self-trust. They guided you gently and persistently back to yourself. You may still encounter noise. The world will not suddenly become quiet, but you have changed how you meet it. You no longer take its turbulence personally. You no longer confuse its opinions with your essence. You stand rooted while life moves around you, like a tree that does not argue with the wind. You sway when needed. You remain when needed. You trust your roots. And so you live now with a quiet confidence that needs no audience. You act from purpose rather than pressure. You allow life to unfold without constant commentary. You know when to speak, when to listen, and when to let silence carry the wisdom that words cannot. This is not withdrawal from life. This is intimacy with it. As you continue on your path, remember this gentle truth. The universe does not require your defense. Your soul does not require your explanation. You are not here to prove your value. You are here to express it. When you stop defending yourself, you stop fragmenting your energy. You gather yourself back into wholeness. And in that wholeness, you become a quiet blessing to yourself, to others, and to the unfolding world. Let this be the way you walk forward now. Not guarded, not hardened, not reactive, but awake. Awake to the intelligence that guides you. Awake to the peace that lives beneath every moment. Awake to the simple, liberating realization that nothing real about you has ever been in danger. And in this awakening, you find the deepest freedom of all, the freedom to be without defense, exactly as you are.